You ever look someone in the eyes and tell them the one truth that will destroy their ego forever? I did. And I'll never forget his face when I leaned in and said, "All those failed dates? All me." He thought he was the hunter, but he was about to learn he'd been prey all along. But to understand how we got to that moment, we need to rewind. Back to the beginning. Back to the story of how I fell for a man who seemed perfect, and how his too-good-to-be-true love story slowly turned into the darkest nightmare of my life. 8 years ago, I was just a young woman looking for something real. Not fireworks, not a whirlwind, just someone who got me. Someone who saw me for who I really was, not just the surface. And then he appeared. He wasn't just charming. He was attentive in a way that made me feel like the only person in the world. He listened. I mean, really listened. Every word I said, every little story from my past, he tucked away like it was treasure. I told myself, finally, someone who sees me. But if there's one lesson I wish I'd learned earlier in life, it's this. If it feels too perfect, too magical, too flawless, it probably is. At the time, I didn't know the word for it. I didn't know about narcissists and their tactics. I didn't know about love bombing. I just knew that, for the first time in years, I felt alive. The second month we were together, he did something that made me feel like I was living inside a romance movie. He owned this little boat, nothing too fancy, but enough to get us to a secluded island off the coast. One sunny Saturday, he told me to pack light and trust him. We rowed out, salt water spraying, the world shrinking behind us until it was just us, the sea, and this untouched island. When we got there, I saw he'd prepared a full lunch at home. Fresh bread, olives, fruit, even homemade pasta. He poured limoncello into glass jars, clinked his cup against mine, and toasted to forever. We swam, we dove, we laughed. At one point he disappeared beneath the waves and came up holding a massive shell. He pressed it into my hands like it was a jewel, saying, "Every time you look at this, remember this day, and remember us." I clutched that shell like it was proof that fairy tales were real. And then there was the time he took me to his childhood home. His parents had passed away years earlier, and as he showed me faded photographs and mementos, I saw tears in his eyes. He pulled out an old toy, a little worn figurine, and told me it was his fondest memory of childhood, the thing that made him feel safe when his parents were gone. When he pressed it into my hands, saying, "Now it's yours," I nearly cried. It was raw, it was intimate, it was everything I thought love should be. I was certain, he's the one. This is it. I found my forever. But love bombing only lasts as long as it takes to reel you in. At first, it was little comments, barely noticeable if you weren't paying attention. Like, I'd put on a dress for date night, and he'd smirk and say, "Cute, if you're going for the high school prom look." Or I'd tell a story with excitement, and he'd chuckle under his breath. "God, you can be so dramatic." Each comment landed like a pebble in my stomach, small but sharp. And when I looked hurt, he'd backpedal, hug me, kiss me, and whisper, "I'm only teasing, babe. Don't be so sensitive." I started doubting myself. Was I overreacting? Was I too thin-skinned? But then he upped the ante. He'd flirt with women right in front of me. Smile a little too long at the waitress. Compliment a stranger's laugh while ignoring mine. And when I got upset, he'd say I was jealous and controlling. Then he'd swing back into the sweet version of himself. Gifts, kisses, apologies. Like a pendulum. Like he was rewiring my brain to chase the scraps of affection he'd toss me. I didn't notice it right away, but slowly my life became exhausting. I wasn't just his girlfriend. I was his cheerleader, his proof of worth, his emotional punching bag. If I didn't reassure him enough, he'd sulk. If I challenged him, he'd explode. Every day became a test. Prove my love, calm his jealousy, earn back a slice of the man I thought he was. I was drained. I was running on empty. And still, I clung to the memory of that island day. That shell. That toy. That perfect love that now only came in fleeting glimpses. And then came the moment that cracked everything wide open. I just stepped out of the shower one night. My hair dripping, towel wrapped tight, steam still curling in the air when I saw it. Him. Sitting at the computer. Logged into an online dating site. He didn't even look ashamed when I caught him. He just turned, smirked, and said, "Relax. I wanted you to see. I wanted to know if you'd get jealous and controlling again. Like it was a test. Like my heartbreak was some twisted experiment. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to shake him and make him understand the damage he was doing. But a deeper instinct whispered, don't react. Watch. Learn. See, what he didn't know is that I already held the key to his secret life. Early in our relationship, he'd called me frustrated about setting up a chess website account. He wasn't good with computers. In his impatience, he'd blurted out the exact username and password he wanted to use, asking me to set it up for him. And I remembered. So that night, when he finally left the computer unattended, I sat down. Hands trembling, heart racing. I typed in that old username, that old password. And just like that, I was in. His entire double life opened before me. Message after message with women. Flirtations, explicit chats, secret meetings. Even cruel, intimate details about me, mocking the things I'd trusted him with, belittling me to strangers. My chest felt like it was collapsing. My vision blurred. I slid off the chair and onto the floor, sobbing so hard I could barely breathe. That night, I cried until my face was swollen, my voice hoarse, my body limp. I cried like a child who'd just discovered monsters are real, and they can live in the body of the person you love. But then something shifted. Somewhere in the middle of that endless night of tears, something inside me snapped. The weak, desperate part of me, the one begging for crumbs of affection, the one clinging to memories of limoncello and childhood toys, it died. And in its place, something colder emerged. Not just anger. Not just betrayal. Revenge. I wiped my face, sat back down at that computer, and whispered to myself, "If you want games, let's play." And that's how it began. The plan that would destroy him. The plan that would leave him questioning every date, every message, every woman he thought was real. The night I discovered his secret life, I thought my world had ended. But looking back now, that night was when my real story began. Because heartbreak can break you, or it can rebuild you into something stronger, sharper, and more dangerous than the person who betrayed you. That morning, with my eyes raw from crying and my chest heavy with grief, I decided one thing. If he thought he could play games with me, then I would make sure he lost. Before I get to the revenge, I need you to understand how deep the wound was. After seeing those messages, those disgusting, intimate betrayals, I fell apart. I lay on the floor for hours, curling in on myself, clutching my knees like a child. Every cruel sentence he typed to those women replayed in my head. She's too sensitive. She doesn't satisfy me. I only stay with her because she worships me. Reading those words from the man who once told me I was his soulmate felt like being flayed alive. But even through the pain, there was clarity. All the gaslighting, all the manipulation, it wasn't me. It was him. And once I knew the truth, I couldn't unknow it. I could have left him right then. Packed my bags. Walked away. But no, that would have been too easy for him. He'd just spin the story, play the victim, and find another woman to trap in his lies. He needed to feel it. He needed to taste the same humiliation, the same helplessness, the same doubt gnawing at your stomach until you can't sleep. And that's when it hit me. The dating profile. The same tool he used to betray me. I could turn it into the weapon that would destroy him. I created a new account. New name, new face. Not mine, of course. I scoured the internet for stock photos that looked believable, but not too perfect. A woman with kind eyes, a little mysterious, someone he'd think he could impress. I crafted a backstory. Likes, dislikes, little quirks. I knew exactly what to write, because he'd told me countless times what his ideal woman was. I molded myself into that fantasy. And sure enough, within hours of setting the profile live, there he was. His username popped up in my inbox, smug and eager, like a fisherman spotting bait. And the hook was set. At first, I kept it light. Teasing. Playful. Pretending to be shy but intrigued. He couldn't resist. Every line he sent was dripping with the arrogance of a man who thought he was a master seducer. Wow, you're different from the other women here. I feel like I can really open up to you. You'd be surprised how lonely I get, even in a relationship. Oh, the irony. Each word made me sicker, but also more determined. After a few days, he asked the inevitable. So, when can we meet? I pretended to hesitate. I told him I wasn't sure, that I'd been hurt before, that I didn't trust easily. And just like that, he doubled down. Compliments, promises, assurances. He was begging for the chance to prove himself. So I gave it to him. I set the meeting at a large, busy coffee house. Public enough to feel safe, but with enough corners to hide in. The night before, I barely slept. My stomach twisted, my hands clammy. What if he noticed me? What if he spotted something off? But the thought of letting him walk away unpunished gave me courage. I arrived early. Sat in a booth tucked into the corner, half disguised with a scarf and sunglasses. My heart hammered so hard I thought people could hear it. I called him 10 minutes before the meeting. Asked casually, "Hey, where are you? Want to hang out today?" His voice came back smooth as ever. "Sorry, babe, I've got an errand to run." Rain check. My blood boiled. The audacity. The confidence in his lies. I kept my eyes on the door. And then there he was. He strolled in like he owned the place, scanning the crowd with that same smug smile he used when he thought he'd fooled me. He sat down at a table, straightened his shirt, and waited. At first, he was patient, checking his watch, smirking at his phone. But then the restlessness crept in. Fingers tapping, leg bouncing, eyes darting to every woman who walked through the door. And then fate intervened. A woman walked in who looked eerily similar to the profile picture I'd used. Not exact, but close enough. And my cheating boyfriend? He pounced. He practically leapt from his chair, rushing to her with this fake charm dripping off him. She blinked at him, confused. He said something. She shook her head. He pressed again. Until finally, she snapped at him loud enough that half the cafe turned to stare. "I don't know you. Leave me alone." Red-faced, he stumbled back to his table. I sat in my booth, biting the inside of my cheeks so hard I almost drew blood, just to stop myself from laughing out loud. He waited another 30 minutes before giving up and slinking out the door. That night, I messaged him as the mystery woman. I told him I had seen him, that I knew who he was, but that when I saw him in person, I found him unattractive. I said I panicked, so I pretended not to know him. I apologized profusely, acted ashamed, begged for his forgiveness. And he took it. He wrote back, trying to play it cool, pretending he wasn't bothered. But I knew him. His ego was bleeding. There was no way he brushed that off. For the first time in years, I felt something shift. The power wasn't his anymore. For so long, I'd been the one crying, doubting myself, begging for scraps of affection. But now, he was the one left waiting. He was the one questioning. He was the one humiliated. And it was only the beginning. Because one ruined date wasn't enough. Not for the pain he caused me. No, this was just the first move in a much bigger game. Little did he know. The next few weeks of his life would be filled with rejection, confusion, and humiliation. And every failed date, every canceled plan, every cruel twist of fate, it wouldn't be bad luck. It wouldn't be coincidence. It would be one failed date wasn't enough. Not for the nights I spent crying. Not for the years I wasted clinging to scraps of affection from a man who never loved me, only controlled me. So I kept going. And what followed was the slow, steady unraveling of his ego, one fake date at a time. Just days after the first humiliation, he was back in my inbox. Desperate. Trying to charm me, reassure me, rebuild the connection with the mystery woman who'd rejected him. I played hesitant, coy, even insecure. I made him work for it. And when he finally convinced me to meet again, I gave him hope, only to snatch it away. At the last minute, I sent a message. Something came up. Can we reschedule? He agreed, eagerly. And when I rescheduled for another day, I didn't show. I imagined him sitting at that cafe again, nervously checking his phone, scanning the door, waiting for someone who never came. That image carried me through the week like a secret treasure. It's hard to explain the satisfaction of it. For so long, I'd been powerless in that relationship. He controlled the tone. He dictated the rules. He made me question myself at every turn. But now, every time I typed a message under that fake profile, I was holding the strings. And every time he fell for it, I felt my strength return. This one was pure luck, but it still makes me smile when I think about it. We'd arranged another meeting at a bar. I knew he'd show up early, so I did too. This time sitting at a table tucked against the back wall where he couldn't see me. I ordered a drink, pretending to read, but really I was watching him. He sat near the entrance, eyes darting to every woman who walked through the door. And then it happened. A woman came in who looked, from a distance, a lot like the profile photo I'd used. Same hair color, same style of jacket. His face lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. He rushed to her, smiling, confident, certain he'd found his prize. The poor woman looked startled. She shook her head. He insisted. She pulled away. He followed, leaning closer, smiling like a fool. Until finally she snapped at him, loud enough for half the bar to turn and stare. "Back off. I don't know you." The look on his face priceless. Red cheeks. Tight jaw. The humiliation of strangers watching him get rejected in public. I almost laughed into my drink. Once I saw how easy it was to rattle him, I doubled down. Sometimes I'd agree to meet and never show. Sometimes I'd cancel at the very last second. Sometimes I'd pretend to ghost him entirely, only to return a few days later with some flimsy excuse. And he'd lap it up, too proud to admit how desperate he was. It became a cycle. Hope, anticipation, disappointment. Hope, anticipation, disappointment. Over and over. And with each cycle, I could see the cracks widening. The man who once strutted through life with arrogance now carried himself differently. His texts became needier. Instead of smug one-liners, he wrote paragraphs. Instead of confidence, there was pleading. I really thought we had something. Can I at least call you? Just once. Please don't disappear like this. Imagine that. The same man who used to make me beg for his love was now begging for the attention of a woman who didn't even exist. That's karma in real time. I didn't stop at just one profile. Oh no. I created several. Different names. Different pictures. Different personalities, all crafted carefully to fit his type. One was adventurous, loved travel. One was bookish, shy, looking for someone to open her up. One was flirty and bold, feeding his ego. And he fell for every single one of them. It was almost too easy. The more profiles I spun, the more tangled his life became. There were nights he'd be messaging 3 different women at once, not knowing all 3 were me. He'd make plans, juggling schedules, convinced he was some master player. And then, one by one, those plans would fall apart. A last-minute cancellation. A woman who never showed. A date who suddenly lost interest. Over and over, rejection after rejection. And each time, I was there to watch him crumble just a little more. One night, he messaged one of my fake profiles at 1 a.m. Can't stop thinking about you. You're the only one who understands me. I laughed so hard I almost woke the neighbors. Because just hours earlier, he'd been in bed next to me, pretending everything was normal, kissing me goodnight like nothing was wrong. The duality of it was sickening, but also hilarious. He thought he was clever. He thought he was fooling everyone. But the only fool in the room was him. By the time I hit the 10th ruined date, I could see the toll it was taking on him. He was restless, short-tempered, paranoid. He'd stare at his phone like it held the secrets of the universe. He'd leave the house more often, come back frustrated, snapping at me over the smallest things. Sometimes he'd sulk for hours, locked in his own head, convinced that the universe itself was conspiring against him. If only he knew. The universe wasn't out to get him. I was. With every failed date, every rejection I engineered, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: peace. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about balance. About rewriting the story. He had made me feel powerless, like my worth depended on his approval. But now, he was the one dancing to my strings. He was the one trapped in a maze of lies with no exit. And the best part, he never suspected a thing. But after 10 failed dates, I realized something important. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life running fake profiles, stringing him along forever. This wasn't about keeping him in my orbit. This was about closure. About ending the story on my terms. And that's when I decided it was time for the final act. The breakup. The truth. The moment I'd look him in the eye and watch his carefully constructed world collapse in on itself. For weeks, I'd been the ghost haunting his love life. But soon, I'd reveal myself. And when I did, he would never forget it. For weeks, I'd been haunting him. Every failed date, every rejection, every woman who never showed up. That was me pulling the strings. But now, it was time to step out of the shadows. No more games. No more fake profiles. It was time for the final blow. I didn't want to do it in private, because I knew exactly how it would go if I broke up with him behind closed doors. He'd twist it. He'd gaslight me. He'd spin the story until I was the jealous, crazy girlfriend who pushed him away. No, he wasn't going to get that chance. So I chose a public place. A busy cafe in the middle of the afternoon, crowded enough that he couldn't make a scene without humiliating himself. I picked the same cafe where I'd once watched him wait for a woman who didn't exist. Poetic, isn't it? When he walked in, he was smug as ever. That fake smile plastered on his face, like he thought he was in control. I sat across from him, calm, almost serene. "Why'd you want to meet?" he asked, sipping his drink like nothing was wrong. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Because this is the last time we're ever meeting like this. We're done." At first he laughed. A sharp, disbelieving laugh. "Done? With me? Don't be ridiculous." But when he saw I wasn't joking, the performance began. He leaned forward, his voice dropping into that manipulative tone I knew too well. Baby, you're overreacting. You've been jealous for a while now. I've told you, there's nothing going on. He was already rewriting the narrative, already trying to make me doubt myself. But this time, I wasn't crying. I wasn't begging. I wasn't breaking. I was ready. I let him finish his little act. Then I leaned back, folded my arms, and said the words that would change everything. You're a cheating son of a B*********H. And I know everything. His face froze. For the first time, that fake confidence cracked. But he recovered quickly, scoffing. Cheating? Please. You've lost it. You're paranoid. I smiled. A slow, deliberate smile. And then I said it. All those failed dates? All me. The silence after those words was delicious. He blinked. Once. Twice. His mouth opened, then closed again. What are you talking about? He stammered. I leaned forward, my voice calm, steady, sharp as glass. Every woman you thought you were meeting. Every single one who stood you up, who rejected you, who canceled last minute. That was me. I made the profiles. I set the dates. I watched you fall for it, over and over. And then I watched you fail. His face drained of color. The arrogance was gone. In its place, disbelief, confusion, and finally fear. How? He whispered. I smirked. Your password. The same one you gave me years ago, remember? Chess account, remember? You never changed it. You basically handed me the keys to your double life. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and looked down at him. That's how I know. And that's why this is over. Then I walked out. I thought that would be the end of it. That he'd slink away, too humiliated to ever contact me again. But narcissists don't give up so easily. A few weeks later, I got a long, rambling email from him. Pages of text. He called my revenge ingenious. He said it proved I was the love of his life. He claimed he'd lost the will to date online, because every time he talked to a new woman he feared, and secretly hoped, it was me. He wrote again. And again. Even years later, he still tried. But I never replied. Not once. Because the story was over. Looking back, I see now what really happened in that relationship. He didn't love me. He never did. He loved control. He loved power. He loved seeing me beg for the scraps of affection he threw my way. But when I flipped the script, when I made him the one waiting, doubting, hurting, he couldn't handle it. That's the thing about narcissists. They can dish it out, but they can't take it. Revenge didn't erase the pain. It didn't undo the betrayal. But it gave me something I desperately needed, closure. For once, he didn't get the last word. I did. And while I don't recommend everyone go to the lengths I did, I'll admit it. Watching his ego crumble, watching him question everything, watching him squirm under the weight of his own lies. It was the sweetest justice I've ever tasted. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just walking away. Sometimes it's making sure the person who broke you knows exactly what they lost and why they'll never get it back. So tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? And if this story gave you chills, smash that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned, because I've got plenty more tales of karma to share. And remember, when someone thinks they're playing you, sometimes the best move is to let them play themselves.